Hello, here we are again. We're on week 4 of our series for hip and knee strengthening. If you're waiting for a joint replacement or had a joint replacement or just have some arthritis or pain in these areas, recovering from an injury, all of this might be helpful. So please look back to the earlier weeks. We're building skill week by week. It might feel like we're taking an awful long time, but it's important to lay the proper foundation. This week we're looking at improving balance. This is something that many of my clients over the years have been struggling with, and we're going to start with the same simple building blocks as we've used in some of our other practices. So you notice I have an old kitchen chair here. You can use a folding chair or a kitchen chair, but something you can move around and that's quite firm. I'm going to use this just to protect me as I work on balance. So I'm going to look down at my feet. You could always use your block. You can also use a full box of Kleenex if you don't have a block. This helps me to align my feet basically hip distance apart and also in a parallel fashion. We try to work with that as much as possible in these rehab practices. We're trying to train the thigh bone to fit back up into the hip socket in a nice plumb kind of way, a neutral way. Often over the years we've developed a couple other habits. So that's a good practice to get into. So I found mountain pose. We visited mountain pose at the end of our week 3 session. And I'm going to come into warming up the feet and knees a little bit similarly as to how I did it last week, but now I'm doing it from a standing position. So begin by feeling the weight distributed all around both of your feet. So there's weight under your right foot and under your left foot. If you've been experiencing a lot of pain over your journey, chances are you're favoring one foot over the other, one side over the other. So gently we try to bring that again into a neutral position. Breathe in and out through the nose through these practices as best as you can. When you inhale, see if you can lift just your toes up from the floor. Exhale, lower your toes and almost try to eat into the floor under your feet. And then inhale, lift and spread the toes, and exhale, almost eating into the floor. We'll just do that one more time. It's a lot of exercise for the feet muscles, and generally most of us have weakened feet muscles, so it's good to have that. The next movement, again, timed with the breath, and you can use the chair to help you find confidence around your balance, is to inhale, rock up to the balls of the feet, so the heels are lifting now, and then exhale, lower back down. See if you can keep your inner feet aligned with the sides of the block or box of Kleenex so your ankles aren't wobbling all over. They're coming straight up and straight down in 2 parallel lines. That's not easy to do. We just have to do about 3 breaths like that, and then we're in good shape. And now we'll move into ankle roll. So again, the chair is here to help you. Take the happier leg, lift it up, inhale, roll your ankle in one direction, and exhale, roll your ankle in a big circle in the other direction. And then we'll do that one more time. Good. And then come back to mountain pose. I've got both feet aligned with the block again. If I keep coming back to that positioning for my feet over and over and over again, I will train those hips and those knees to move when I walk in a straighter and more neutral way, creating less wear and tear on my joints. So let's do the same thing with the other knee. Lifting up, inhale, roll the ankle in one direction. Exhale, switch directions. One more breath like that. So the knee joint and the ankle joint take their cue from what's going on in the feet. So you'll notice I start a lot of these little sessions with some feet warm-ups, and that's exactly why. Next, I'd like to work a little bit on the knees. So holding onto the chair, take that first leg again, inhale, and as you exhale, bring the foot up so it's almost going to kick your buttock. And then inhale back to mountain pose, and exhale, kick yourself in the butt. Your knee might not bend that much, but you have that direction. Try to make your body stay as quiet as it can while you're kicking your butt. As you come back to weight bearing on both feet, notice the body didn't change shape too much. You didn't wobble too much. You're really kind of keeping yourself centered in the middle of your body. Then we'll try the other leg. Inhale in mountain pose. Exhale, lift the heel up like you're going to kick yourself in the butt. And you don't want to bend the knee too much. If you're getting any pain at any point in the range of motion, don't go there. Make the range of motion smaller so you can do this movement and just feel quite neutral about it. Back to mountain pose. Okay, we're moving into a little bit of warm up for the hip now. So I'm just going to move my block. If you're using a box of Kleenex, just move it out of the way for a second. Stand away from the chair a little bit just so that you have some room to move your legs. We're going to start with a movement of the leg out and in. So this is the yogi don't, if you will. I know we all want to be really flexible and show how much progress we're making in our yoga practice, but really that's our egos talking. That's not really what's going on. Real yogis want to know the truth, right? So we want to try to lift the leg straight up to the side. So I'm not lifting like this. Now I'm exaggerating a bit, but notice how my body is no longer straight up and down from the floor. My body is not in mountain pose anymore. I want to lift the leg straight out to the side, but keep my body straight up and down like mountain pose. It's a lot less movement than what you might have wished for, but that's okay. I also want to focus on keeping the bumper bone and the kneecap and the toes facing straight forward, just like they are in mountain pose right now. I want to keep everything, so I don't want to turn out like this or like this. I want to keep everything facing straight forward. I know that's a lot to think about, but these exercises are meant to retrain our brain. So when we go to walk around or climb stairs or do the activities that we like, we automatically go into a healthier pattern of movement for our joints. So it's a lot of retraining. The older the dog, the harder it is to learn new tricks. So let's try one leg first. Again, you start with your happier side, so you might have to turn around, face the other way so that you can move the leg. As you inhale, transfer weight to the standing leg and lift the leg you're working with out to the side. Notice that's not much movement. Inhale back to mountain pose and exhale, lift the leg out to the side. Now you might feel muscles at this point in your hip kind of doing some work, and that's good. We don't want to do so much work though that we cause pain. If you're dealing with something, for example, hip bursitis, which is a specific diagnosis, you may find that movement too painful, and so you can just skip this part. Now I'm going to move to the other leg. Notice I only did 3 breaths. I don't need to do a lot of fancy movement to get a lot of effect when you're working in this way. So the other leg, and when I'm ready, I'm going to exhale, lift the leg out to the side, inhale back to mountain pose, stand tall. Exhale, lift to the side, inhale, stand tall. And I'm only moving to the degree I can without creating any pain or congestion in that outer hip. Good. And you can repeat these little mini practices several times throughout the day and really reinforce this learning. Now I'm going to turn sideways, but you're fine right where you are. I just want to demonstrate this from the side. Still have your chair beside you. And we're going to go back to that happier leg, the first leg we were working on. And we're going to start in mountain pose as we have through all of our work so far today. I want to take a nice deep inhale and lift the leg straight forward. And as I exhale, lift the leg straight back. Notice that the bumper bone, kneecap, and toes are pointing straight forward through the whole swing. And then I'm doing that nice, long, tall spine again. So I'm not leaning forward, so I can say, oh, look how high I lifted my leg. Let's move to the other side. So I want to do the other leg. Starting from mountain pose. Take a breath. And as you inhale next time, lift the leg straight up front. And exhale, pull the leg straight back. Notice that the kneecap, bumper bone, and ankle and toes are all pointing in the same direction. And that my lower back is staying quite quiet. I'm just moving the leg. Good. And then come back to mountain pose. Now at any point, we're really getting into the meat of the matter, if I could say. If at any point you're feeling fatigued, push pause on this video, sit in the chair, rest for a little bit, have a sip of tea or something, have some water, and then come back and finish the video when you feel better. So don't exhaust yourself. When you're stressed and exhausted, you can't learn new skills. It's the way your brain works. So it's important, especially if you're rehabbing, to give yourself lots of time and energy to heal. I know you want to get better yesterday, but it's a long road back and everybody has to walk it. There's no shortcuts, unfortunately. So we're going to do one last thing to really get into the hip joint and warm up. I find this hip movement one of the harder ones. Maybe you will too. So it's okay if it's starting to get a bit harder. This is a movement where we lift and weight bear on one leg again. And then we turn the kneecap out to the side. This is called external rotation because I'm taking the thigh bone, I'm rolling the thigh bone outwards, but I'm keeping the bumper bone facing straight forwards. So I'm not turning my whole body to get that motion. I'm just turning the leg bone. And then I do the opposite. I turn the leg bone in, keeping the bumper bone facing straight forward. Now, before we get into this movement, just a little caution. If you're very new from having hip replacement surgery, you want to be very gentle and careful with this movement. I would, as a general rule, suggest you should be 6 to 8 weeks post-surgery before you do internal rotation with your leg. This is non-weight bearing though, and you can stop at any time, so I'm not too worried. They do a pretty good job when they're in there giving you some new hardware. So let's go to your happier leg first. Inhale, knee turns out. Exhale, kneecap turns in. Inhale and exhale. Back stays quiet. Bumper bones are like headlights facing straight forward, driving straight down the highway. Good. And remember, you can pause this video whenever you need to. Take a seat, relax for a while until you feel less stressed. If in fact this is stressing you out. Everyone's different, every day is different. As you get better, know that you didn't land with hip and knee problems overnight. Well, maybe you did have an accident, but most of us landed by, overuse, misuse, and it takes a long time to re-educate our movement patterns. So it's okay to be tired, to need rest, to take breaks. When you're ready, we can do the other leg. This is the one that might be more painful normally, so it's okay to take extra time. Inhale, knee turns out. Exhale, knee turns in. I'm going to do that for about 3 breaths. Now, if you find it too hard to weight bear on one leg, you can always lay down on your bed and do this movement on your bed. And we did that in week 1. So you might remember that video and go back and repeat those practices until you get a bit stronger and then try this standing practice. I'm going to use my chair for another wonderful pose called lunge pose. So I'm going to adjust my chair. I've got a wall space here, which is really good because when I turn the chair around, I can secure it against the wall so I know it's not going to move away from me. If you find the way I'm doing this, you have to bend over too much for your preferences, you can always turn the chair this way and hold on to the back of the chair. So I'm going to use the back of the chair for today. You customize the practice so it makes the most sense for your body and how it's working right now. So I'm coming into mountain pose with my body facing the chair, either the seat of the chair or the back of the chair. And the chair is somewhat secured, so it's not going to slip away from me. And it doesn't really matter which leg you do first. I'm going to choose to do my right leg first. I'm going to take a big step back with the right leg. I'm going to reach back as far behind me as I can and come onto the ball of the right foot. You'll notice my left knee has bent, and I want to really think about the left leg for a moment. I want to make sure that the knee is centered over the ankle. I don't want to be too deep into the lunge. Let's be sensible here. Keep the left knee, I should say, right over top of the ankle. And the thigh bone is pointed right at the back of the chair. It's almost as though if I was a little skier, I'd ski down the thigh bone and be landing right between my second and third toe. And then I want to think about the sitting bone. That's the bone that, gets sore when you ride your bike. The sitting bone sending a root down to the ground. So I'm dropping the left side of my hips slightly, feeling very grounded in my hips. Meanwhile, I'm pushing back through the right heel, the back leg heel, and I'm feeling, and you can go ahead and touch, it's okay. Feel the buttocks muscles on this side. They should feel a little firmer. And if you can make them more firmer, contract the gluteal muscles. That's good. Now you can stay right here with both hands on the chair. You can also try lifting one arm. So I've got the leg that's back, which is my right leg. That's the right arm lifting up and reaching. So pushing back with the right heel, lengthening forward with the right fingertips and taking a nice deep breath. And then standing in mountain pose again. Remember, you can always sit for a few breaths, pause the video, rest a little bit. Let's repeat that with the other leg back, lunge pose. So holding onto the chair back, step the left leg back as far as you can. Let the right knee bend, not too far, just right, like Goldilocks said. Your back heel is pointing straight back. So we're working at that neutral alignment of the back leg in the hip socket. So your back heel is not turned out, it's not turned in, it's going straight back. Feeling the alignment in the front leg, knee directly over the ankle, pointing straight ahead, and dropping the sitting bone. For me, it's on the right side. Spine is aligned, nice and tall. You can also, if you want to add a little bit more challenge, lift your left arm. So same arm as leg is back. Pushing out of the heel, lengthening up through the fingertips, taking a nice deep breath in. And exhale, stepping forward into mountain pose. This is our last practice. It's been a tough practice today, but we're getting stronger as we progress week by week. That's the plan. So again, the chair is secured. I have the back of the chair to rest my hand on. So you may have to turn your chair around if you had done a different version than me. And I'm going to bring all my weight onto one leg, your happier leg, shall we say. Notice as you do that you're not really changing too much the way you're standing. Now I'm exaggerating, but that your pelvis is staying more or less centered over your feet. And then coming up onto the big toe. Check in and make sure that your bumper bones are level with the ground, that one hasn't changed too much. And then for a couple breaths, let's inhale, point the knee out to the side, and exhale, point the knee forward. Here's another yogi don't. Now I'm exaggerating, but we want to keep the structure really firm and just move the cupboard door. You see what I mean there? Don't want to twist your low back. You don't want to move too much. And then come back to weight bear on both feet and mountain pose. Take a breath in and out. So you're really learning core stability here. You're learning how to strengthen your center so your hip joint's free to do the job it was meant to do. So often we get stiff in the hip joints and start using our back and our bodies to do the job that the hip joint was supposed to do. So we're working on getting back to that old flexibility you might remember. When you're ready, shift weight a little bit more to the second standing leg. Come up onto the toe of the other foot. Inhale, knee moves out. Exhale, come back to center. Again, not twisting the whole body. And even if the movement's very small and you start to feel restriction, then that's where you work. That's where you work. Wonderful. Back to mountain pose for one last breath to just kind of recenter everything and know that you've done a great job today. Maybe a few minutes, 5, 10, 15 minutes to rest. Lie on your bed or sit in a nice comfortable chair and just let everything settle from the work you've done. Thanks, and we'll see you for week 5 soon.